Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to create this cool or true winter makeup look for every day. So to learn how to create this look and how to maximize some of the other color seasons on the wheel to benefit you a little bit more with your everyday styling, stay tuned and let's get right into this video. To get started with today's cool or true winter makeup tutorial, I'm going to start with a primer that leaves a more matte finish. e.l.f. Hydrating Face Primer. I'm going to use that in the center portion of my face where people would tend to get more oily. I'm going to mattify my T-zone. I also love this primer for over my eyelids. Let's create some contrast by adding some more glow. My sunscreen does leave a little bit of a glowy base. I want to amplify the glow a little bit more. Guerlain Meteorite's base. What I love about this is in the tube, the little pearls are suspended in a clear liquid. The pearls themselves are a cool pinky silver tone. This will already help to add a little bit of that cool tone glow to the face. And since we've mattified through here and we're adding some glow here on the perimeter, it's going to add a little extra juice and plump to the skin while creating a little bit more contrast. Achieving contrast is going to be easier for those of you who fall into the cool, true winter palette. In my previous seasonal color video where we were dissecting the deep or dark winter palette, I talked a lot about how you can borrow from your neighboring palettes, so for cool, true winter, deep, dark winter, as well as your bright or clear winter palette. So your sister palette is going to be across the color wheel and it's going to be the opposite. So the opposite, cool, true summer. They are both cool undertones only. You will not find traces of warmth in these palettes. They are the coolest palettes on the season. The biggest difference is cool true winter is going to be high contrast. Cool true summer is going to be lower contrast. If you are cool or true winter and you want to punch up the base, you really want to throw on a strong statement eye and you go to put on a statement lip and you just feel like it's a little too much for your personal preference, check out cool true summer and find a muted lipstick from that color palette, and that could be your answer to playing with your sister palette and finding harmony to suit something within your personal comfort. So using the Rare Beauty Liquid Touch Concealer in shade 140C. When I'm working on my base for high contrast seasons, so spring and winter, I find winter to be one of the trickier ones because cool tones tend to look a little bit more stark on the skin, even if they are the correct colors for you. There's just something about warm tones that feel like they kind of meld into the skin a little bit better. And cool tones tend to feel more stark. Kind of like if you put on a dark brown on one side and then you put on a black on the other side, even though they're going to have similar depths to them and create similar effects, black will look a lot more stark than it's going to look on the side that's brown, and that stinks that little bit of warmth. When I'm creating a winter makeup look, I like to focus on perfecting the skin, because if you put on colors like blue or purple or even reds under the eyes, and then you don't really have anything else, like you don't really take time to apply foundation or concealer, and then you've got redness or any type of dark circle under the eye, even if those are the best colors for you, it's going to emphasize. So spend a few extra moments taking the time to perfect your base. Before I add color, I want to set down my under eye area. Pressed powder from the brand Eclipse, the Blur powder packed in shade 13, and it's just a little translucent powder. I want to go ahead and set under my eyes because I want to start off by applying my eyeshadow for the look. And if I have unset concealer and anything falls down, it's going to stick. So even though I'm not going to set the rest of my face right now, I want to take time to set right under my eyes where any eyeshadow could fall out. If you were someone who really enjoyed the Pat McGrath under eye blurring powder or the Charlotte Tilbury airbrush powder, I find this to almost be like a hybrid of those two powders at a lower price point. I really enjoy this. The shades do run a little bit on the lighter side, but if you use it with a light hand, it's more of a translucent setting powder. It works beautifully and it does a great job at blurring, so that's why I love it for the under eye area. Today I want to really play with the cheeks because we're creating a fresh everyday look, but I want to keep contrast in the skin. I'm going to drive home contrast because that is a big part of this seasonal color palette. Can Make is more of an affordable Japanese brand, and this product, I believe, was less than $10. It's a very bright kind of raspberry pink. Put it on the back of my hand. Then I like to take a fluffier blush brush and I will start applying it on. Working with cream blush off the back of my hand, I can use it more like a powder blush. If you take a fluffy brush and work off the back of your hand, you can treat it like a powder formula, which is a lot more familiar for a lot of people. If this does not scream winter, I don't know what does. It's like that perfect in from the cold pinky flush. It's so pretty. I'm gonna build it up a little bit more because like I mentioned, I want this to be the star of the show. And we're gonna powder down creams. When they sit into the skin, they can lose a little bit of their color. So I'm gonna leave it about right there. And I can always add a little bit more color later with a powder blush. Since this is more of an everyday look, I want to make sure that the eyes are a little bit more subdued, because for most people, and this is very much a generalization, a strong eye feels a lot more intense than a strong lip. I want to go ahead and get my lip color on, and I can build my eye look off of the cheek and the lip. Lisa Eldridge Enhance and Define Lip Pencil in the shade Blush Lightly. So that lip liner feels quite intense, especially on my skin tone. My color palette is light summer, so my coloring is a lot more muted. I do well with cool tones, but very strong, predominant cool tones, which is the main feature of the palette, can feel a little intense. So what I want to do is to make this feel more at home and a little bit more of a nude lip. I'm going to borrow something that could work well for a cool summer or a cool true winter. It's from the brand Givenchy, and this is the Rose Perfecto shade number 102, and if I'm not mistaken, it's called Feel Nude, but it is like a tinted balm in this really beautiful mauvey shade. Is we are going to build the eye look off this, so we can see this color ties into our cheek color really, really well. For the eye palette, I pulled some colors from my collection of Sydney Grace eyeshadows. We have got 4 different shades here, and I've pulled a highlight shade. I want to use a reverse technique. I'm going to use a matte eyeshadow in the shade Snow Queen, which is a pure white. I'm going to start anywhere I would go ahead and highlight. Here on the inner corner of my eyes, and I'm also going to apply a little bit right over the round of the eye. So if you're unfamiliar where the round of the eye is, if you feel on your lid where it comes to the round, or where the apex is of the round of the eye, normally right here over your pupil, that is where you want to apply this shade. So I'm going to use a fluffy brush just to soften it down. And again, you can really see the contrast coming out, because even though my skin tone is quite fair, this white eyeshadow is still providing contrast and brightness, which is part of the beauty of the cool true winter palette. Next, I want to make sure I'm tying in my lip and cheek color with my eyes. So I'm going to use a matte eyeshadow from Sydney Grace, and this is in the shade Embrace. This shade could best be described as a mid-tone rose pink. You can see that rosiness is really coming out. But it's one of those shades, when it's worked into a full look, it's going to be a background or supporting color. It's not going to be the key feature. It's one of those things that it's going to feel more intense and kind of out of place until you finish with the look. By all definitions, a smoky eye. We have to remember a smoky eye is just a gradation of light to dark. So instead of doing kind of like the traditional cool true winter evening smoky eye like I did in my last video, which is very dark to light, we're going to tone that scale down. We're letting our lip and cheek take the center stage, and we're letting our eyes play in the background. So our eyes are going to gradate more from light to medium with a little bit of depth just at the lash line. So it's very much going to be a supporting character. Blended out, that color is much softer, but now we have color harmony. Our eye ties into the cheek, which ties into the lip. Let's add some shimmer. I feel like all looks go well with shimmer, and we kept our skin fairly matte, so we can have some shimmer on the eyes. For that, I'm gonna use a color I'm so excited about, because this just screams winter to me. Pressed Pigment eyeshadow from Sydney Grace in the shade Winter Garden. Is that not the perfect name and the perfect color for this look? And I'm gonna use this shade right over my eyelid. where I've already applied that white eyeshadow as a base. That is going to add a spotlight here in the middle, because you can see now we have one color over the lid, but that white is acting like a base to add a little bit of pop. It's adding that visual interest and contrast. Add a little bit more just right across the eyelid. Now I want to go through and soften and smoke out the look a little bit more. So I'm gonna go back to that Eclipse Burler powder, and I'm gonna use a fluffy crease brush. And since this is a translucent powder, get the effect of a blending agent or a blending color that is going to soften out the look without adding any more color. The left side to the right side, that step totally transforms this look. Even now on my skin tone, this feels very much like a am I wearing makeup or am I not effect. Since the last round of seasonal color I did back in 2022 went so well, for this round, I wanted to choose 4 celebrities I thought fit the color palette the best, and then I wanted to share with you one of their makeup looks and let you vote on which one. So for this tutorial, we had Janelle Monáe, Jennifer Connelly, Jisoo, and Selena Gomez. And the winner of the poll was Jennifer Connelly. So her look was very kind of subtle, what we're doing here. If you had Jennifer Connelly coloring instead of mine, this would look a lot more harmonious. We need a little bit of black in this look to make it a true cool winter look. I'm going to use the Sephora Collection 12-Hour Colorful Contour Eye Pencil in the shade 02 Clubbing Stilettos. This is going to be very much a supporting role for this eye look. I'm going to use the mirror and I'm going to place it right at the root of my lash. I'm not going to apply too much because I'm going to use a matte eyeshadow in a darker color from Sydney Grace, a matte eyeshadow in the shade Officer. I'm going to use a MAC 219 pencil brush and pick up that color right on the point of my brush and smudge out the pencil. A little bit transferred under the eye, so I'm going to take that brush I used to apply my concealer earlier, run right under the eye and brighten up a little bit. Then I can take my fluffy brush that I applied that powder to the eye area with. And before I go back to this side, now that I have that line on, I want to go back to the Winter Garden shade, and I want to apply one more layer right over. So now I want to finish off face makeup. I'm going to use the By Terry Hyaluronic Hydra Powder in the translucent shade, and I want to use this to set down my face. A pressed highlighter from Sydney Grace. This is in the shade Pink Mist. It looks white, but it is a beautiful mixture of cool tones. So you have a white base and a beautiful pink, blue, a little bit of purple, and a subtle flash of green mixed into this highlight. The more I buff and blend, the more it melts into the skin. You'll notice I'm buffing and then sweeping down over the cheekbone, and it's adding that beautiful round to the cheek. If we look at this side, my cheekbone is here. The cheekbone pops, comes forward. This side it feels a little bit more flat. I say maximize the glow. Really play off that more satin matte finish that we had with our foundation. You've got highlight, you had a cream blush. Add a powder blush with a little bit of glow if you want that extra pop. I'm going to be using a blush subtil from Lancome, and this is in the shade number 330, Power of Joy, and it does not run short on the joy. It is beautiful. Look at that, just coming right through. Beautiful, rosy blush. Layered over top of that highlight, it's really mimicking the eyes and still tying into the lip color. And I am just taking my time building up the blush to where I want it. Even though we are doing a natural, more subtle look for this color season, you don't have to be overly cautious on the blush. Winter palettes do really well with blush, and blush is something that fades quite quickly on the face anyway, so you can add a little bit more and not feel crazy about doing it. Now, one of my favorite tricks for creating a bronzy effect is you can take your blush and your powder foundation together that you were using as a bronzer, mix them back and forth. Together, you will get a skin tone shade that is slightly more pink, slightly more rosy. It's going to be very reminiscent of its natural skin tone when it gets a little bit of a sunburn, and just run that over the forehead, nose, and chin, and that should give you a little bit of warmth without feeling orange on the skin. But hey, like I said in the beginning of the video, if orange makes you happy and you want to use a bronzer, find a bronzer that you love and use it. Don't let something like this stop. For brows, make sure you're sticking with more of an ashy, cool tone. So look for shades like dark, cool brown, or even sometimes you can go for a grayish shade. I'm going to use the Kosas Air Brow in the shade gray. I feel like now, instead of building my blush up, I think I'm going to actually let my lips be the star of the show. I'm going to add a gloss on top. And for gloss, I'm going to be using a Gloss Embrace from Lisa Eldridge in the shade Beauty. For mascara, I'm going to be using L'Oreal Lash Paradise. And for your mascara, you can use any variation of black that you want. Just ideally look for the most rich and intense black mascara you can find. Once you have all of your makeup on, if you look back, if you feel like it's still too much, maybe this is your first time really dabbling into the seasonal color palette and putting together that is technically correct for the look, and it just feels overwhelming. That's totally normal. That's okay. This is where we can borrow from our sister palette, Cool True Summer. Put on a color that's gonna be a little bit more subdued, a little bit more muted, and really kind of tone down the lip look, just to make it feel a little bit more balanced and easy to wear. So I'm gonna take a tissue and blot down the lip, and then now we have a stain on the lip. You could leave it here. The stain is very wearable on its own for a daily makeup look. I'm gonna use the MAC Love Me lipstick in the shade Laissez-Faire, which is going to be a muted purple gray nude. I want that cool, true winter brightness, so I'm going to go back to the Lisa Eldridge Gloss and Beauty, a little bit right on the center of the lower lip, and then I can just use my finger to spread it out, a tiny amount, using your finger to spread it. So using a more muted lipstick with more of a bright punchy gloss on top is going to give you a little bit more easy to wear everyday lipstick that is going to feel more no makeup for the cool, true winter seasonal palette. Okay, and that's going to complete today's video. Here is our everyday true cool winter makeup tutorial inspired by the looks that were voted for in the poll on my community post. If you enjoyed today's video, please make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know, would you wear a look like this for every day? How does this feel with the correct seasonal colors in your opinion? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoy this, check out the other videos in my seasonal color playlist, which I'll have linked in the video. And stay tuned, because next week we are diving into the much requested and highly anticipated bright, clear winter. So I will see you all there. Until then, take care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world. Bye, y'all.